management, and advertisers.
What's up, everybody? It is Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. PTL Nation, glad you could be with us. A lot going on in the world, and we do it on this show, the left, the right, everywhere in between, and we appreciate you being a part of what we do here. You could be watching on my personal YouTube page, at PTL Radio Show, maybe the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, ever so growing radio show, and happy that you all are joining us today. We got the Super Chat going on YouTube, where we will take your questions and comments. Grant Stern, great journalist from the Occupy Democrats Network, is going to be joining us. And Ilana Dropkin is going to be joining us hour number 2. Like getting the female's perspective on things. We're probably going to disagree on the Israel-Palestinian conflict a little bit, where Donald Trump talking a tough game. If Hamas doesn't release all the hostages by Saturday, quote, there's going to be hell to pay. Well, Hamas already put out a statement that said they're not going to be doing that. So what does Donald Trump mean by hell to pay? Is he going to flip-flop and go back to buying Gaza? Geez, I wonder. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. But I wanted to start the show with this. So we hear from MAGA Republicans all the time that Donald Trump is tough on Russia, right? Tough on Vladimir Putin. Obviously, that's not true. But over the course of the last several days, we had this guy Fogel come home, which I think we all could agree is a good thing. However, I've been saying for days now, what did Donald Trump give Putin in return? And as soon as I found out, and we all found out, that Trump was being mum, and the White House wasn't saying what the concessions were, and Donald Trump said, well, we didn't give him much. And when I learned that they were keeping this quiet, and they weren't telling the American people, unlike Joe Biden, I became concerned, and I told you on the air yesterday, this is not good. He caved to Vladimir Putin. And as the minutes go by, we're learning that's true. What did he give up? Well, there's something called a tell in poker, where you can tell if somebody's lying. Before the negotiations really have even happened in a serious manner yet, Donald Trump told Pete Hegseth to say Ukraine shouldn't be getting back into NATO, which was the plan all along for Vladimir Zelensky. But the reason why Putin invaded Ukraine, besides being a bully and a murderer, is Putin wanted some land, and he wanted to make sure that Ukraine didn't get back into NATO. That was the whole reason why he did this to begin with. And he didn't care about the loss of life, whether it be his own people or people in Ukraine. This is exactly what Donald Trump gave Putin. Putin got exactly what he wanted from America. And in essence, our own government and our own leadership and Donald Trump is rewarding an evil, murderous dictator from going into one of our allies' nations and killing a bunch of innocent people. John Bolton is a guy that would agree with me, and I think John Bolton knows a little bit more about this than most people in the world. And John Bolton said on CNN yesterday that effectively Donald Trump surrendered to Putin.
And President Trump has effectively surrendered to Putin before the negotiations have even begun. The positions that Defense Secretary Hegseth announced in Brussels, which I'm sure I'd be stunned if Trump didn't convey them directly to Putin in their phone call, constitute terms of a settlement that could have been written in the Kremlin. Maybe they were written in the Kremlin and got out in propaganda channels. But it's a complete reversal of the U.S. and NATO position on a number of issues. For example, up until today, the official American position was that Ukraine should be returned to full sovereignty and territorial integrity. That's gone. The question of NATO membership as far back as 2008 had been that ultimately Ukraine would become a NATO member. That doesn't look like that's around anymore either.
There you go. I agree with Mr. Bolton 150%. See, because Bolton, say what you want about him, he is telling the truth. Donald Trump doesn't like that. That's why he took his security clearance away. So for a guy that many on the far right say is the toughest on Russia, Vladimir Putin is not just going to give up a prisoner for nothing in return. And once again, a world leader has played Donald Trump. Just like the president of Mexico, when Donald Trump threatened the 25% tariffs and she said, we'll give you 10,000 troops at the border, Donald Trump didn't even know that there have been 15,000 troops at the border. Just like with Trudeau, when he threatened 25% tariffs on Trudeau, and Trudeau promised Donald Trump what he already announced under Joe Biden, which was $1.2 billion for border security. He was played by Trudeau. He was played by the president of Mexico. But now, even more dangerous, he's being played by Vladimir Putin. And while all this is going on, the way Fox News is handling this and other right-wing entities is an embarrassment. Listen to what Jesse Waters said about Donald Trump in dealing with world leaders last night.
At all. And so Trump is, despite what people say about him, a true humanitarian. He places such a priority on human life. You got the Gaza hostages, you got the Russian hostages, you got the Venezuelan hostages, almost immediately. And remember what we did with Otto Warmberg. It's also the MAGA movement. It's also fighting fentanyl. All of these things are about cherishing and saving human lives. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for that.
Well, first of all, why don't you pronounce his name right, you stupid rat weasel fool, Jesse Waters, you idiot, you imbecile. It's Otto Warmbier, not Otto Warmber, you frickin' moron. Secondly, preserving life. Otto Warmbier was sent back as a vegetable, okay? He was basically dead. He was brain dead. And we're supposed to praise Donald Trump, who, by the way, took the side of Kim Jong-un when asked, did you have anything to do with this? We're supposed to be led to believe that a young kid just out of college or still in college, that was just a natural thing that happened to his body, and Donald Trump took the side of Kim Jong-un, and we're supposed to praise him for that? You stupid fool, you. You imbecile. How dare you? Why don't you pronounce the kid's name right, you fool? And then there's three-toe, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, we all know her. She's claiming, like so many on the far right are claiming, this is what we voted for. First of all, I didn't vote for it. Most of the country did not vote for it. But somehow those who voted for Donald Trump voted for this? Concessions to Vladimir Putin? Threats and taking over Gaza? Hamas doesn't like that very much. This is what, quote, we voted for? This is what Three Toe had to say about that.
I completely agree with you, Sean. Elon Musk is giving our entire country an inside look at the actual fraud, waste, abuse that's been going on for decades. And Americans are cheering and cheering and cheering. You know, everyone did vote for this. This is exactly what we voted for. This is what we campaigned for, and this is what President Trump promised to the American people.
Absolute nonsense. The American people did not know, at least many of them, did not know that the richest man in the world would be taking all of our information as retribution to go after the companies and the people that he says did him wrong. America did not know that Donald Trump was going to give concessions and give Vladimir Putin anything and everything that he wanted. America did not know that Donald Trump was going to piss off the world. Some of us did, but maybe not all of us. America did not know this. America did not know that the president of Mexico, Trudeau, and Vladimir Putin would play him like a fiddle the first 3 weeks of his administration. America, at least those who voted for Donald Trump in America, thought that he was going to bring down the price of gas, that he was going to lower inflation. Turns out the opposite is happening. And it's only going to get worse with these tariff threats around the world. I think Mehdi Hasan said it best. I don't always agree with Mehdi Hasan. But this line that he was speaking of yesterday on MSNBC, this line of the MAGA Republicans, this is what America voted for, is a lie. Have a listen to what Mehdi Hasan had to say about that.
On your point that you just made about not having Ukraine be in NATO borders.
Cut 4 should be Mehdi Hasan. Oh, that's cut 4. Well, I guess that's the wrong cut then. Interesting. All right. So what I was attempting to play was Mehdi Hasan describing MAGA supporters across the country. He was on with Joy Reid last night, saying this is what people voted for. It's the clip that I've just played of Marjorie Taylor Greene where she's saying, this is what America voted for. And he's describing it as a lie, which it is. Mehdi Hassan is correct. It was a lie. I don't know if we have that clip available, but that is, in essence, what many of these Trump supporters or these, I guess you could call them talking heads on the air, are saying on the far right, the Scott Jennings of the world and those kinds of people. No, this is not what many people who voted for Donald Trump thought was going to happen. No, we're not going to take over Gaza and own Gaza. We're not going to do that. Or at least many people didn't think that he was going to do it. Threatening to put troops on the ground. A lot of people were lowering the price of eggs and inflation. And a lot of people voted because they thought that there would be real change made for the better, not lawlessness and a tech gazillionaire, the richest man in the world, taking over all of our private information. So here's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we are at. So to talk to us about this and much, much more, he's also the guy that's responsible for Steve Bannon being investigated. So we certainly need to thank him for that good work and that good journalism. And to talk about all these issues, of course, my friend, it's been a little bit of a while. Grant Stern from the Occupy Democrats Network joining us right now on the show. Grant, it is good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great, man. It's been too long.
It's been a long time, and we certainly have a lot to catch up on and talk about. Let's start with Vladimir Putin, Grant, if I may.
Sure.
It appears as though, and you correct me if you disagree, that one of the main reasons why Putin invaded Ukraine was to make sure, number one, that Ukraine doesn't get back into NATO, and number two, to take over some land. But I think the NATO...
Number one, take over some land.
Right. So, yeah, the two can be exchanged. I agree. You can make that case. And it appears as though in the phone call that Donald Trump had with Putin, he gave him those two things. And then Pete Hegseth, hours later, making his remarks, is saying, yeah, Ukraine shouldn't get back into NATO. And Trump is saying we didn't give him much. We didn't give him much to get this guy Fogel home. What do you make of this?
Look, President Zelensky isn't going to cave in for a bad deal. Donald Trump has a very political agenda here, which is just to get rid of the problem because he lied and said he was going to get rid of the problem, right? But reality is a lot more difficult than lying to everybody. And that's always hitting Republicans in the face. And they then respond by saying that reality isn't reality. Facts aren't facts. Remember, Rudy? There's not going to be peace there until Ukraine is made pretty much whole. Russia didn't do this just because of NATO. 100% they did it to steal some land that they believe is theirs. And it's because of their Russian national myth-making. Okay? The idea of manifest destiny that is very controversial, and but it's in every single history book that you read when you're growing up in America. Well, they have their own flavor of it in Russia, and it's called the Russian Empire. And they see themselves as just the center of the world, and they want to, they think that, hey, this belongs to us. This always belonged to us. We used to dominate this. We're taking it back. The whole excuse about them being afraid that Ukraine would join NATO, that is their rationale. They're saying we provoked them because NATO could include Ukraine. But if that's really the case, why is Russia taking all of their troops away from Kaliningrad, for example, an exclave, like a city that belongs to Russia, that is totally surrounded by NATO members? Why not defend that? They don't have to. NATO's a defensive alliance.
And Grant, isn't it interesting that when somebody like Brittany Griner comes home, every MAGA Republican out there has a problem with that exchange, but yet in this circumstance, this guy Fogel comes home. I think we all could agree, yes, that's a good thing. But yet they don't even know all the circumstances because Trump and the White House have not been conveying everything to the American people. It's pretty clear with what Hegseth said hours later. This is what Vladimir Putin wanted. We are, in essence, correct me if I'm wrong, rewarding an evil, murderous dictator from invading a country, one of our allies. Make no mistake about it, Putin is being rewarded because of one man, Donald Trump.
Well, let's be real here, though. Let's be honest. This is a failure of the entire American policy establishment. First of all, to not anticipate it and do something before it happened. And then when it did happen, Republicans decided we're not hitching our wagon to this. And this was in 2014. And they didn't understand the grave geopolitical problem that this created. And if they did, they just didn't care. And I think the latter is more exacting. But the fact of the matter is, Ukraine is a resource-rich country. And that's why Vladimir Putin wants to control it. They have all sorts of resources under the ground. But the biggest resource they have is the fact that they are the breadbasket of that hemisphere, of the Eastern Hemisphere, of the old world. They are the breadbasket.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's a crucial choke point for global food prices that the Soviet Union used for leverage for many decades when they basically owned Ukraine as a Soviet socialist state. And then, you know, the irony here is that the old USSR actually gave Crimea to Ukraine, right? Which was a colonial move when you think about it. There were Crimeans. The Soviets moved the Crimeans away and then said, okay, we're giving Crimea to Ukraine here. But like the borders where they're fighting over, I mean, that's Ukraine. And they agreed to uphold those borders. Yeah. So Donald Trump needs to go with what Ukraine needs, not with what he needs, because that's the only way we're going to have a real peace there. When he did it with Afghanistan, it caused huge problems.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So now we have this going on, Grant, in that part of the world, and Donald Trump caving to Vladimir Putin. John Bolton says that Trump, quote, has effectively surrendered to Putin. I would agree with that.
Well, that was his plan from day one, so I don't see how anything changes with a phone call. He already announced it, but that doesn't mean that the Ukrainians are surrendering or have to surrender. They're fully armed. They have, the European continent is 100% behind them still, and they're not going to walk away just because Donald Trump is walking over to Vladimir Putin. I think actually the opposite, because the strategic importance of Ukraine only grows with America's shitification under Donald J. Trump.
And now what we have, I agree, Grant, and now we have this going on there. And Donald Trump, with that ridiculous press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, I mean, a lot of Republicans are rolling their eyes there. And you see what Marco Rubio looked like at the press conference with the King of Jordan. And I say to myself, first of all, Hamas has already said that they are not giving up any more hostages anytime soon. Donald Trump threatening them, saying, well, if you don't give them up by Saturday, by the deadline, there's going to be, quote, hell to pay. Either one.
Actually, I mean, here's the thing, right? Donald Trump's positions are so extreme. They're not researched. This is just off the cuff, drunk old grandpa without the alcohol, making these crazy talks. And nobody else is on board. I mean, Marco Rubio is not. Marco Rubio doesn't want to run off and participate in a genocide, right? I mean, that is what ethnic cleansing is at its heart. But, Donald Trump still sees himself as like an old school real estate baron. And back in the olden days, there was this thing called blockbusting in America. They did it here. They'd come in and they'd say, hey, black family moved into the neighborhood. You might want to get out, right? And so to him, it's just like, this is just, there's no rule against this, so we're going to do it. We're sovereign. We can do whatever we want. We're America. Well, there's reactions to this. I mean, he is going to cause governments that are friendly to the United States to get overthrown with his loose lips, and he has no support for this in his party, in Congress. Only the very, very most hawkish parts of the Israeli parliament support such a radical idea. Even Benjamin Netanyahu probably doesn't personally support this idea because he knows in his heart of heart that this would cause a never-ending war.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
It would make new enemies.
Agree. So, Grant, in the first several weeks, he's managed to threaten to take over a sovereign nation, you could call it, in Gaza. He's certainly, I think you could make the argument, made the Palestinians.
Oh, what about Canada?
Yeah, I was just gonna go there. In 3 weeks, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one could say, is much worse than it was maybe even a month ago. That's number one.
Just number 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Let's call it 3 weeks. What it is.
3 weeks ago, and then you look at what we just discussed when it comes to Vladimir Putin and the war there. He said he was going to end the war.
Well, he's totally turned all of Canada against America. In fact,
yep,
you know what? MAGA might stand for make Justin Trudeau great again. I really think that MAGA actually has a Canadian translation we didn't know about.
Grant, it's so interesting you say that because I get calls from Canada every day. I had a lovely lady call in from Canada yesterday, and she echoed what you just said, which is, thank you, Donald Trump, for bringing Canadians even closer together and dividing America. And I said,
you know what,
dear,
though?
You are correct. He offered $2.1 billion at the border when he offered the same thing under the Joe Biden administration in December. And then Donald Trump has taken the walk of victory. I mean, it's like Mexico, the 15,000 to 10,000 troops.
Wait a second. Actually, Mexico is even funnier than you think. Okay. You ready for this? This is some big picture shit right here. So Mexico has been asking America for decades to close our border going south because all of the guns that the cartels use in Mexico are being illegally imported from America. The trade goes both ways. There's only one legal gun store in all of Mexico. Did you know that? There's one legal gun store in all of Mexico. So Donald Trump agreed to accept Mexico's previous commitment, right? And then cancel some tariffs. But he agreed that he would close America's border and stop those guns from going down there. And you know why that happened? You know why that was going on? You know why America didn't secure our own border for the benefit of Mexico, to stop the cartels when they were getting bigger? For the gun companies here. Because
there you go.
Where are those illegal guns being bought from? American manufacturers.
Let's talk about that. A lot of people have said on the far right, this is what, quote, America voted for. Obviously, number one, Trump only won the popular vote by about 1.4, 1.5%. Number two, he didn't even get half the vote from everybody that went to. So it's not a mandate. But even with that being said, I don't speak for MAGA supporters, but I'm pretty confident that most MAGA supporters voted for Donald Trump because they wanted their eggs to be cheaper. They wanted gas prices to be cheaper. They wanted the economy to get better, even though the economy, as you would agree with me, was in pretty damn
They
good
voted
shape.
for lower inflation, man.
Right. And they're getting the opposite. And Trump doesn't even want to talk about it. Caroline Leavitt doesn't want to talk about it. Gas prices are higher on average across the country. The eggs have skyrocketed. Inflation is higher. He's gutted, the FAA, at least half the FAA. We talk about prescription drugs. We know that executive order that he signed.
Well, actually, that's one where the most MAGAs are going to be the most affected. These people were benefiting from the $35 per month insulin cap.
Yep.
And that was like the first thing that Donald Trump did. Make America healthy again by making insulin twice or three times the price. Woohoo!
I'm glad you brought that up.
Who knew that made America healthy? You learn something new every day.
Grant, there are people that don't understand and they have misinformation. Let's just talk about that for a moment.
Wait, you mean the people in Fafo City, USA?
Yes,
don't
exactly.
have accurate information?
Apparently they don't. And people will say, well, wait a second. Donald Trump's the one who implemented that plan. Yes, he did. But here's the kicker, right? Millions and millions of more people under Joe Biden were able to get their insulin capped at $35 because Plan B and Plan D was covered under Joe Biden's plan. And Donald Trump signs an executive order to implement his plan that he had in his presidency, where millions and millions of less Americans were able to access the cheaper insulin. Why is it? All you got to do is Google this. Why is it so hard for MAGA Republicans to understand this? I guess that's a rhetorical question, but it's like...
No. This is a good question. So just imagine that you've joined a cult. The leader says that the price of eggs are lower, and you're like, but I'm paying $8 for a dozen, and just last month I was paying $4, right? And the leader says gas is not more expensive, it's less expensive, and you're like, but gas went up 50 cents in the last month, and the cult leader says all these things, and you say to yourself, if I tell this guy that he's wrong, I'm going to be kicked out of the cult. And my family joined the cult. My friends joined the cult. Why, everybody around here joined the cult. I'm going to be all by myself. Why do they do it? Fear. Fear of loneliness.
Yep.
And this is what I've been saying, by the way, for quite a while since this election, that I think that the Democrats, there's been so many postmortems. But let me just give you the biggest picture postmortem there is, okay?
Okay.
The Democratic Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, who just recently, left office, issued a report on the epidemic of loneliness in America. And COVID only exacerbated that. And I'm going to tell you this. If we maybe made people a little bit less lonely, maybe they'd be a little less fearful about leaving this cult that they're in. Because over the next few years, Fafo City, Fafoville, Los Fafos, and Fafostan, USA, are all going to be doing a lot of finding out. We need to welcome these people and not be judgmental when it turns out that they shouldn't have voted for Donald J. Trump. They all thought that they were going to get one of these lies.
Yeah.
And I think, we really need to be out there with the mentality that this is about making sure that people know that there's a community that will support them and that they've been lied to and it's not their fault.
That's how to, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have buyer's remorse. I agree with you. And the messaging has to be good. It has to be better. Grant, I wanted to ask you, we could talk about Donald Trump all day in these first 3 weeks, but you were one of the main factors in why Steve Bannon was investigated. And I want to give you the opportunity to talk about that. And thank goodness for your great journalism and your great work in doing so. Steve Bannon, I know he's not going to be going back to jail, at least not anytime soon for this.
That we know of.
That we know of. Just a horrible guy. Horrible. Can you talk to us about that and what you were able to do in order to get him investigated and eventually convicted?
Oh, thanks for asking, man. Well, 5 years and 8 months ago, I got a tip. And the tipster said, you've got to look into these We Build the Wall people. Because they came to me and said they were broke because Facebook had deplatformed them. They had a Facebook page called Right Wing News, which is pretty ironic. And they were kicked off for repeated and never-ending falsehoods, masquerading as news. So naturally, I looked into it before I wrote any story, and I was like, holy cow. And the source was like, look, you know that I know what this life's, I'm a reasonable person. I'd actually reported on this source in what feels like a previous life now, but it was only a few years earlier, before I had even known what political party he might find attractive. And so this is someone that I trusted. And sure enough, they were right. They said, I think there might be something illegal here. It looks like this guy's paying for his boat, his house, his car. It was all very fancy, right? And crucially, the house that he was in was not the house that the Gary Sinise Foundation had purchased for the founder of this company. So I wrote the story. I published it. It got 330,000 reads within 24 hours.
Wow.
Which is a heck of a lot, okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, it just went bonkers. Once you hit about 300,000, you're like nationally seen. Sure. And so this guy wrote back to me. I sent him questions and he didn't answer before the thing came out. I called his spokespeople before the article came out. And then I went to Mother's Day brunch. And I get back from Mother's Day brunch and there's the email and we started talking, right? And I was like, hey, you're making all these claims. You're not going to make any money from this. How can you prove that? He said, we have bylaws. The bylaws say I won't take a penny from it. I'm like, well, you give me a copy of them. He said, go get them yourself, which is funny because corporate bylaws, you can't just get them somewhere. The corporations have them. They're like, right. They're private information. Mm-hmm. And so, I wrote up the story and then I updated it a couple of times with our discussions. And he, as we were sending the emails out, he wrote, well, I'm going to contact Snopes. Snopes.com, the urban mythbusters.
Yep.
And I was like, go right ahead. I'm contacting a fact checker too. But I found out later that Snopes was one of the main reasons he lost his whole thing in the first place, which is kind of funny that he would go to Snopes to try and debunk me. And,
Right.
Snopes poked around a little bit, wrote a story about it. I had to write them back, by the way, because they had messed up. Their story missed so many points. I was like, corporate law, and they're like, oh, geez, you're right. Like I said, I was like, look, here's all the, because, I'm in Florida, I'm from here, I own a small financial business. I know this kind of stuff. And sure enough, that email that they sent to the Florida Attorney General it got forwarded to the investigators who had already been looking into We Build the Wall, just on a civil level. And they opened the civil investigation that turned into a criminal investigation because of my reporting, because of his running off to Snopes. But my reporting literally caused the investigation. The chain of events happened that way. And I got the email to prove it.
No, your work is incredible, and I thank you. And I think a lot of people that are watching and listening to this show right now, thank you for that. It's interesting.
Oh, let me say this though. Let me say this about this, because I wrote that story. It sparked the investigation. I got the evidence that the investigation had opened, and I wrote a really long follow-up story with David K. Johnson as the editor, the Pulitzer-winning journalist, right? Mm-hmm. And I put in there like all the things I thought they were doing wrong with their company. I interviewed multiple lawyers about all the corporate stuff, and I said that it looked like they were using it like a tax alter ego.
Right.
They got charged with money laundering, tax crimes, fraud, and literally the fraud was that they were using the bylaws to pretend that they were not getting paid. So it was like all right there at the very genesis. And at one point, I basically I gave them the roadmap, and I heard back that the roadmap was used. So I thought that was like. That was what was so amazing about it. And then I was very fortunate to break that there was a criminal investigation exclusively. On the morning Trump pardoned him federally, I was able to report that the Florida investigation was ongoing. And that was the investigation that got handed off to New York and resulted in the plea deal.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that. In a world where, as Elon Musk would put it, all these independent journalists, it pisses me off. I'm sure it pisses you off because these people can't even spell the word journalism, and they just attack people on X, and they call themselves journalists and these exposés, and they have no degrees. They have never worked for a company before. They don't know what real journalism is. They're the ones that call CNN fake news and, attack, whether it be Occupy Democrats. If they disagree with good journalism, they call it fake news, right? And this is the era, Grant, that we are living in now, where anybody can just call themselves a journalist. But if you kiss the ring of Donald Trump, you'll get a media credential, and you'll get to go to some of those White House press briefings and ask Caroline Leavitt what it's like working for a king every day and how wonderful she looks. And it's just pathetic. The times that we are living in today are pathetic. Yeah. There are a few good journalists out there, and you obviously are one of them. So, Grant, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. Love Occupy Democrats. We love what you do, my friend, and we got to get you back on soon. It's been too long. Keep up the great work, my friend, and let's keep holding them to account. That's all we can do. And
hey, everybody, if you're out there, please follow me on Blue Sky. You can follow me on Twitter at Grant Stern, but I'm at grantstern.bsky.social. That's the only real one. I would love it if you guys gave me a follow. You can, of course, follow us at Occupy Democrats in both places.
Yeah, and, please do. Please do. Grant is a great journalist. And listen, if I get in touch with
always
Steve
a pleasure.
Bannon, we can all go to dinner with Steve Bannon one day, and I'm sure he'll thank you. So maybe one day we can.
Well, the craziest part about it, and I'll leave you with this, is that we didn't really know how involved Bannon was. And also that he mocked my reporting, and there's a video of it. So
not surprising, but Steve Bannon's ex co-host podcaster threatened me physically on the air in a Zoom interview like this one. And he's like 70 years old. So that was also very interesting. So these people are very unhinged, and we got to keep doing what we're doing, my man. Love your work, Grant. Keep up the great work, my friend. Say hello to everybody for me over there at Occupy, and it's great to see you. And we'll talk soon. Okay, Grant, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. That's Grant Stern, everybody. Great journalist. Really, really great work there. And we appreciate him very much for joining us in the super chat. We want to thank Tinker for that donation. And also, Pretty Confetti. That is a pretty cool name there. Thank you for your $10 donation. Pretty Confetti said, MAGA cult defending Trump like a toxic boyfriend. No matter what he does or says, they make excuses. He didn't mean it. He's being attacked. or he's misunderstood. It's pathetic. I completely agree with you, Confetti. You are 150% correct. They curl themselves into a pretzel. It is utterly despicable and disgusting. If you're just joining us, I want to start off again by playing cut one, if that's okay. Numchuck, appreciate it. So we've been talking about Donald Trump's concessions to Vladimir Putin. Do you remember, literally less than 48 hours ago, when this guy Fogel was brought home, which is a great thing, the White House, Caroline Leavitt, Marco Rubio, and Donald Trump were being very mum and silent when it came to what did we offer Vladimir Putin in return. Vladimir Putin's never just done a good gesture for America. He hates us. So he had to have gotten something in return. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He got a lot in return, not what Donald Trump said, a little. And when they weren't giving out the details, I knew that was a sign that this was a bad deal for America. It's worse than bad. Donald Trump is literally rewarding an evil, murderous dictator from invading our allies. How do we know this? Well, we know that Pete Hegseth has already made a public statement that Ukraine shouldn't enter back into NATO. This is exactly what Vladimir Putin wanted, and Putin to take over land, getting rewarded for invading a country. This is terrorism. And can you imagine in the days after 9/11, if we gave Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden concessions and said, all right, you can have some American land? That's exactly what this is. There is no difference. Yes, I get it. That is a terrorist group. Guess what? That's what the Kremlin is. They are a terrorist group. Vladimir Putin is a terrorist, or as Joe Biden said, an evil dictator. So they're getting land. They're getting what they wanted as far as Ukraine not entering back into NATO. And this is what John Bolton had to say. A person who worked in Donald Trump's first administration had to say about this so-called deal with Caitlin Collins on CNN last night. Have a listen to this.
And President Trump has effectively surrendered to Putin before the negotiations have even begun. The positions that Defense Secretary Hegseth announced in Brussels, which I'm sure I'd be stunned if Trump didn't convey them directly to Putin in their phone call, constitute terms of a settlement that could have been written in the Kremlin. Maybe they were written in the Kremlin and got out in propaganda channels. But it's a complete reversal of the U.S. and NATO position on a number of issues. For example, up until today, the official American position was that Ukraine should be returned to full sovereignty and territorial integrity. That's gone. The question of NATO membership as far back as 2008 had been that ultimately Ukraine would become a NATO member. That doesn't look like that's around anymore either.
Here you have Bolton saying that President Trump has effectively surrendered to Putin. Does that not concern you? It certainly concerns me. We are rewarding an evil, murderous dictator from invading our allies. That is exactly what is going on here. Make no mistake about it. And yet, MAGA Republicans all over this country are claiming victory, just like they claimed victory with Trudeau, who played Donald Trump, just like they claimed victory with Mexico. The president of Mexico played Donald Trump, just like Donald Trump caved in the middle of the night to China. That is what's going on here with Vladimir Putin, only worse, because Trudeau doesn't want to harm America. I don't believe he does. But on a world stage, we've been embarrassed. On a world stage. And I'm glad that this American prisoner was sent home. But two can be correct at the same time. You can be happy that this American prisoner was sent home, but you can also be very concerned with the deal that was struck down between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. They've already showed their cards. I can't imagine that Zelensky is going to be okay with this. I can't imagine that. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, just 3 weeks into Donald Trump's administration. Here we are. And in the first 3 weeks, we've been embarrassed on the national stage. Trudeau has played us. We've managed to, and when I say we, I'm not saying all of you, I'm saying Trump has managed to piss off a lot of people in Canada. He's managed to piss off a lot of people in Mexico, getting nothing in return. He certainly hasn't helped our relationship with China. I think that's evident. He's threatened to take over a sovereign nation, threatened to displace 2 million Palestinians with no plan on how he would do so. Hamas is not giving up the hostages. At least they claim they're not giving them up. And Donald Trump said by Saturday, there's going to be hell to pay. This is where we're at as a country. And while all this was going on, Donald Trump is the guy that campaigned on, I'm going to lower the price of eggs. I'm going to lower inflation. I'm going to lower gas prices. Well, that hasn't happened. In fact, the opposite has happened. And any economist that is not biased will tell you these 25% tariffs or these threats of 25% tariffs are going to kill our economy. And it's already headed in the wrong direction, and it'll continue to head in the wrong direction. But yet, MAGA Republicans out there think that this is a victory for the United States. I can't think of anything that Donald Trump has done so far that somehow is going to help people that are living paycheck to paycheck. I can't think of one thing that he's done in his first 3 weeks that are going to help everyday Americans. I am not trying to be Mr. Gloom here. I am always honest on this show. I give you my opinions. It's okay to disagree, but I can't think of one thing that Donald Trump has done in 3 weeks that I'd say, wow, that's really going to help the American people. Not the big tech billionaires, not the Elon Musks of the world or the Vivek Ramaswamis of the world. I'm talking about everyday Americans, normal people, people that aren't billionaires. He helped the top 1% with the biggest tax breaks in decades. He did that in his first administration, and now it's getting worse. And and what the hell is Elon Musk doing in the White House, by the way? What is he doing in the Oval Office? Can somebody please tell me? What is Elon Musk doing in the Oval Office? Why are they holding a press conference there? And why is his kid on his neck? Why is little X there? Can somebody please explain that to me? So we're going to be taking some phone calls. And we're going to be taking a break first. And we're going to be taking some phone calls. And before I take a break, we have the super chat on YouTube at PTL Radio Show. And any comments or questions, we will be reading those on the air. It's very simple if you're in my YouTube chat at PTL Radio Show. Also, my website. This is a independently owned radio show. What does that mean? Well, we own our own content. We pay our own bills. So what that means is we rely on good people like you. So please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. If you like what I do and you want to support what we do, doesn't matter what it is, $5, $10, $20 a month. If you go to pushingthelimits.live, you could do one of two things. First off, of course, subscribe to the YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. Second thing you can do is you can buy merchandise on there. We sell PTL gear, shirts, hats, beanies. My personal favorite shirt, don't be a right-wing buffoon. That's my line. Don't steal it. So you can also make donations on there at pushingthelimits.live. So please do that. We are going to open up the phone lines now, and MAGA are welcome to always call in. Do you think it's been a success the first 3 weeks of Donald Trump's administration? Do you think he's still tough on Russia? Do you think we should be giving concessions to Vladimir Putin, like land that they don't own, rewarding him from invading our allies, Ukraine? Do you think it's a good thing that they're pressuring Ukraine not to get back into NATO, which is exactly what Putin has wanted from the beginning? So we're taking your calls on that at 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, it's 702-221-7283. Phone lines now are open. We're going to probably the only time during the show that they're going to be open. So now's your chance to call in. Ilana Dropkin is going to be joining us hour number 2 here, kind of get the female perspective from the left from her. And we'll be taking your phone calls on the other side. Again, that number is 702-221-7283. The most interactive show in the country is right here, where you will always have a platform on this show. Your phone calls next. Take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Greenview Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie, Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
It's time to wake up and win the weekend. You're listening to the boss of the big ball. Jay Beta, giving you that grease. Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live action on Vegas Scoreboard Express on KSHP 107.1 FM and AM 1400. Dive into the game day with my in-depth analysis, expert predictions, and winning plays from the sharpest minds in sports betting. It's more than just placing bets. It's about securing wins. Head over to jbtheticket.com. And be sure to tune in to KSHP this weekend from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time to ride the winning wave with VSX. Tune in and get your money back from the sports book. All money, all sports, no bull. Missed the live show? Subscribe to Vegas Scoreboard Express on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcast and radio listening.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Programming note for you. Ryan Shedd's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. He is a very popular left-wing podcaster. David Pakman's going to be joining us on Monday. That's going to be a treat. That's going to be a lot of fun. David is great. One of my favorites. So he's going to be joining us on Monday, and some very special guests throughout the remainder of the week. Please check us out, or I should say, please check out the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show. It's Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, with the Pass the Puck contest, where you could win up to $500 in free slot play during a Vegas Golden Knights home game. Many other great promotions and some of the best food in town, man. I'm telling you, some of the best lunches I've ever had have been at Jackson's Bar and Grill. So please check them out. If you're just joining us, you've missed a little bit here. We just had Grant Stern on from the Occupy Democrats Network. Donald Trump was very quiet and mum about what he gave up Vladimir Putin, but it certainly appears as though they are pressuring the fact that Ukraine will not get back into NATO, which I think is not a good thing. I think for the world, for Ukraine, for us. And they're, in essence, or when I say they, Trump and his administration, but it's really Donald Trump, they are rewarding an evil, murderous dictator in Vladimir Putin invading our allies, rewarding him, and giving him anything and everything that he wants. It is abundantly disgusting. It's crazy. Alexa, thank you for your donation. Couch Hopper, even though you're a MAGA supporter, I do appreciate you supporting the show, and I welcome anybody who's a MAGA supporter to watch, to call in. So I appreciate your support, even though you said MAGA is destroying Darlene, and I would respectfully disagree with you on that. Hyper, thank you for your donation as well. We appreciate you. And we got the super chat up on the YouTube page. If you're not watching the show live on my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, you can also make donations at pushingthelimits.live and buy merchandise up there. We're also live on TikTok as well. So joining me in studio before we get to the phone calls, I know there's a lot of people anxiously waiting to speak. My friend Ilana Dropkin is joining us in studio. I wouldn't call her a Democrat operative. She's not Roger Stone from the right, but she is an author, and she gives us the female perspective from the left, and I think that is a very important perspective. Hyper, thank you for your $5 donation. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Ilana, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a while.
It has. It's good to see you here.
So I want to say that in the last chaotic 3 weeks, and I forgot how bad the chaos is. Like, I mean, I can't believe it's only been 3 weeks. It actually feels like 6 months. But
it's been a while.
Nothing that has been happening, it should be a surprise to anyone. Not Russia, not
okay. But can I
nominees.
Can I respond and say,
please?
I hear what you're saying. I would be the first one to admit this is worse than I thought. I knew it would be bad, but I didn't think that he would be played by all these other countries. Canada, Mexico, Colombia, for example, Russia, this is very dangerous territory that we're in. This conflict with the Palestinians and Israel. There are so many issues now where we get an American prisoner home, and I'm happy that the American prisoner is home. But the concessions that it appears he has given to Putin are unbelievable. I can't think of any president in the history of this country that would have ever given concessions like Trump apparently has given.
I don't think those were concessions for bringing, and I apologize, his name has slipped my head right now, but I don't think those were concessions for that. I think those were things that Putin was always going to get. Once Trump took
But you know
office.
when I knew you might be right on that, but you know when I knew we were in trouble the other day when Trump wasn't saying what he gave up. When he doesn't answer, when he doesn't say what he's giving up, I knew that was kind of a tell.
But these are things that he's always, he's never supported Ukraine in this war. None of this is a surprise. Like, I don't know. I've been almost perversely enjoying, and I know that sounds bad, these reporters going in, just like with the farmers, and the farmers saying, hey, he's essentially screwing us. We didn't think this was going to happen. I'm confused as to how they didn't think that was going to happen.
Agree.
Or all the Palestinians in Michigan and Dearborn saying, well, I can't believe he's saying this. I can't believe.
Well, you know what? For all the people out there that were protesting Joe Biden and they were calling him
they were get what you deserve.
You're calling him Genocide Joe. Where the hell are you now? Cow Chopper, thank you again for the donation. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get Darlene and Cow Chopper on the show at the same time if they both agree to it and have a nice little debate. Cow Chopper, I will offer you that opportunity if you'd like. You can email me.
I love that name.
What do you say, Eliana? We take some phone calls. There's a lot of
let's do
people
it.
that are waiting to speak to us. And I appreciate you being here, and I agree with what you just said about this whole situation. It's a mess, but all I'm saying is it's even worse than I thought. I knew it'd be bad. It's worse.
Oh, it's exactly
with
what I
Elon
thought.
Musk as close as he is, he's President Musk.
Oh, he's disgusting.
And with these morons like Tulsi Gabbard and others, it's
First of all, can I say something really quick about
Yeah.
Musk, and then like all the callers can weigh in as well.
Yep.
So you take someone who knows nothing about government. Clearly the richest man in the world, knows nothing about real people with finances, and you let him loose. But it's not just him. It's a bunch of 20, 25-year-olds who have zero life experience, zero anything,
Correct.
and all this power. What do you think is going to come out of that? And for all of you online, because I've seen a lot of the Trumpers saying, oh, they're saving us so much money.
Yeah.
You are so dumb. I can't even begin. Like, I'm so sorry.
You're not
Some
gonna
of
get
you
an
are
argument
my
from me.
family and friends, but I am so sorry. You are so ignorant to
I agree.
think that this guy, by wiping out whole agencies, because I could tell you right now, at not only my husband's school, but that schools all across our valley, they are letting go teachers, they are letting go support staff, and they are adding more kids into classes.
I agree. It's not people don't understand. It's not about him wiping positions out, more of him going after his adversaries, going after people, his enemies, or people that he thinks have done him wrong. It's the same thing that Donald Trump is doing. Ellen, thank you for your donation. Ellen went on my website, pushingthelimits.live, and she made a donation. Thank you, Ellen, for that. Very, very generous of you. We appreciate it. All right. Now let's get to the really fun part. Let's
go.
take some
Yep.
phone calls. It's always fun to take some phone calls here, and let's do that right now at pushingthelimits.live if you're watching on my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. All right, let's go out to – I love it how I get calls literally all over the country and all over the world every day. I just want you guys to know, if I don't say it enough, how appreciative I am of all of you. Let's go to South Carolina. Let's start off with Valerie, who's first up, leading off with us. Valerie, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, I have two things, Brian. First of all, though, I would like to tell you how much I appreciate your show.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
But the first thing is, like the young lady just said, and I was thinking about it before she said it, was we have known all along that Donald Trump has always praised people like Putin, Kim Jong-un,
Yes.
Viktor Orban.
Yes.
From the very get-go. This is not new.
Viktor Orban, he's obsessed with Viktor Orban, so I agree with you.
I know.
I agree with you 100%. Here's what I think, and then you guys could tell me what you think. I think Donald Trump is not obsessed, but I think he admires. That's probably the right word to use. He admires dictators, whether it be a Viktor Orban, whether it be an Assad, whether it be a Vladimir Putin, whether it be a Kim Jong-un. He wants that kind of power, and you could see a glimpse of it at Mar-a-Lago. I know people that go to Mar-a-Lago on a regular basis. I wouldn't want to go there. But when you walk into – this has been like this for decades. Any room that Donald Trump walks into at Mar-a-Lago, standing ovation. He demands it. He wants people to kiss his ring. He wants to be a dictator, and he's showing it every day to the world.
Well, he's a narcissist, so he needs that constant feedback.
Yeah.
That constant positive feedback, right? That's why he still goes on when he's asked questions and talks about the election and how big he won by.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
It's a bit insane.
You're right. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. Let's go to West Virginia now. Let's go to Shelley. Shelley is calling up next from West Virginia. Hi,
Hey,
Shelley.
Brian.
Hey.
Hello to your guest.
Hello.
Hi. Brian, you asked this question yesterday. What did we get from Russia to get Mr. Fogel home? Right?
Yep.
Okay, I wrote this down right after the show yesterday. Could Trump bribe Ukraine? Could he remove sanctions from Russia? And then I wrote down, Russia may blackmail Trump. He could cut off aid to Ukraine or just give Ukraine to Russia and stop Ukraine from getting into NATO.
Do you notice, though?
That's what I wrote down yesterday after the show.
Do you notice, though, he doesn't he's not serious about it. He doesn't really threaten Russia at all with anything. Like our friends in Canada, he's more tough on Trudeau than he is Vladimir Putin. Isn't that all you need to know about Donald Trump? He's more tough on our own American politicians that he doesn't like on the left than an evil, murderous dictator that is responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of people. He's more tough on Dr. Fauci and Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. Think about that. Trump is more critical of Pete Buttigieg than Vladimir Putin. Is there anybody that would deny that? Anybody at all? Am I wrong?
No.
It's crazy. This man is crazy. And he's leading this country into ruins.
And more than half of the country voted for this. And so when people are saying, well, inflation is going up. Yes, you voted for this, but the problem is they're still blaming Biden. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. Like they're still all the threaten of tariffs and all the craziness going on, and they're still blaming Biden.
Oh, I know. It's insane. Let's go to Robin. Robin is calling from Michigan. Hey, Robin, what's going on?
Hey. Oh, I'll tell you what. You asked that question about Elon Musk a little bit ago. You know what he's after? He's after our money, and he's after total non-regulatory, open, let me shoot my rockets into the air without any regulation, without any EPA regulation, and give me all your money.
That and power. I think for Musk and what I've read about people who've known him, it's power for him. He is a lot like Trump in that regards, right? He wants ultimate power, and he has it in supporting Trump, who's just literally a figurehead. Trump doesn't do anything but sit there while Musk is in the Oval Office, like kind of taking over over the attention. Right?
Yeah, there's no question,
Absolutely.
no question about that. And we're at a part now into Donald Trump's presidency, only 3 weeks in, where we know exactly what he's going to be doing over the course of the next 4 years. All right, I love my MAGA callers. Let's go to MAGA Patrick, who's calling in next on PTL. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, sir. I just wanted to point out in regards to Ukraine and NATO. Years ago, Ukraine put forth the admission to try to get a part of NATO, and the NATO nations did not accept the invite because one of the main reasons because they were a corrupt country, and they also said that one of the NATO rules is that to join NATO you can't be entangled in any kind of conflict for a period of 7 years. So as of today, NATO has never been a part of NATO. You keep on saying that.
Never said they were. Never said that. I said get into NATO, number one. So let me ask you a question, Patrick. Patrick,
back into NATO multiple times.
Patrick, let's have a conversation about Ukraine. Let me start by asking you this question: who do you want to win the war, Russia or Ukraine? Can you please answer that?
Ukraine lost from 2014.
Didn't ask you, Patrick. I need you to focus. Let's have a conversation. This is what gets me frustrated.
Hey, well,
Patrick,
Patrick,
you need that. Patrick, shut up. I'm asking you a question. That doesn't mean you talk, and it means you answer my question. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next caller. I'm asking you a direct question, and it had nothing to do with 2014. If we are going to talk about Russia and Ukraine, even if you disagree with me, that's okay. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Answer the question. Who do you want to win the war, Russia or Ukraine? Answer the question.
Ukraine already lost. It's a moot point.
Ukraine did not lose. That is not true.
They're an autonomous country.
And the war is still going on. So now I've asked you twice. I'm going to ask you a third time. Ukraine has not lost. The war is still going on, and as we speak, there are soldiers, sadly, and innocent people that are dying, okay? So now I'm going to ask you one more time, because it's almost impossible to have a conversation with you with any intelligence at all, or credence, when you won't answer this question. See, you're answering the question the same way Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump, and Marjorie Taylor Greene would answer, because I think your IQ is somewhere around where they're at. But that's okay. I'll give my special MAGA supporters another chance. Hey, Patrick, the war is still going on. We're not talking about 2014. I ask you again, who do you want to win the war, Russia or Ukraine? Please answer the question directly.
I do not support evil, murderous dictators like Zelensky. How's that?
Okay, well then, Patrick, you are then Patrick, you are an imbecile.
My goodness.
You are an imbecile. Here we have Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine, and your response is, and I'm going to take that response as you want Russia to win, which makes you an imbecile. So how can I have a conversation with you?
How about Patrick?
When
why
you
don't
won't
you
even
go live in Russia and see how that is?
Well, Patrick, if I had it my way, I would deport you to Russia right now. But since you think that you want Russia to win, you think I'm going to have a good faith conversation with you? You're an idiot. You're an imbecile. That's what you are. You're not even willing to say that you want Ukraine to win, but the first thing you do is criticize Ukraine, and then you say that he's the evil, murderous dictator, and Russia should get concessions. They should get the land for invading a country. Let me ask you another question that even an imbecile like you might understand. Right after 9/11, when Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden were the masterminds behind an attack that killed over 4,000 people. By the way, more innocent people have died in Ukraine because of Vladimir Putin. If the president of the United States at that time, which was George W. Bush, said, we're going to give Osama bin Laden concessions, and Al-Qaeda could have some of our land in the United States of America. And if I had some imbecile that called up and said, and I said, who do you want to win this? Osama bin Laden or George W. Bush? And an imbecile called into my show and said, George W. Bush is an evil, murderous dictator, and I want Al-Qaeda to win. Patrick, what would you say to that person?
I think that's a pretty stupid analogy.
No, it's an exact analogy. No, it's not a stupid analogy. You won't answer it because I pinned you in a buffoon MAGA corner. You say Osama bin Laden is the mastermind behind killing thousands of innocent Americans. Vladimir Putin is the mastermind behind killing thousands and thousands of innocent soldiers and families in Ukraine. But you see, you're so stupid, you don't even understand that. You're so ignorant. It's not a stupid analogy. What do you think of evil, murderous dictators that invade other countries, Patrick? What do you think about people like that?
Well, I'm not the one that seems to think Ukraine was once a part of NATO.
Okay, you're not going to answer the question.
So I want to say really quickly that I think the biggest threat to our security, to everything in this country and around the world is misinformation and disinformation. And so clearly, Patrick, you're getting your information from either the Bros Network or wherever you're getting it. It's just not accurate. So I encourage you to actually go read up, take a class, like get educated on some world affairs, because you have this stuff so mixed up and upside down.
That was pretty absurd.
You're a danger to us because of the misinformation.
Pretty absurd. Pretty ignorant. Patrick, you're just a freaking idiot. You're an idiot. You're very stupid. And this is the far MAGA right, and that's Donald Trump's base. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next up on PTL, calling out of Las Vegas. What's up, Jason?
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, and entertain me for 3 points. Number one, halftime at the Super Bowl was the most watched. And if the last 2 Super Bowls were the most watched by hip-hop. I know you're not in that generation, but this generation that is coming up behind us are the largest other than the baby boomers. So that's why it was so entertaining, because number one, of the beef. Number two, the man got 5 Grammys. There's never been in hip-hop history a beef rap to be nominated for a Grammy. That's point number one. Point number two, black people cannot be racist. They could only be prejudiced. I never stopped any white man from reading. I never stopped any white man from voting. And number two, of the point of it, black people don't go around wiping out neighborhoods like Rosewood and Black Wall Street. And last but not least, I can't run, if the KKK is having a rally, I can't run up with an AR-15 and start gunning them down and expect to get off like Kyle, whatever his name was.
Rittenhouse.
So that's the whole point of it all, is that I might not like somebody because they're evil inside, but somebody hates me just because of my color. That's a big difference from prejudice and racist. I can't stop somebody from voting. I can't stop somebody from reading and writing. But somebody, my ancestors didn't like me and stopped my ancestors from reading and writing and voting and owning property. I digress.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate your phone call.
And Jason, I want to say I loved the halftime show. So, and I'm not of that generation, but I thought it was really, really great. And I loved seeing.
I don't even care who's like at the halftime show. And you got all these MAGA Republicans that are such racist bigots. They're
that's pretty much what it was. Yeah. And they didn't like, and I'm sure they didn't like all the ads that was focused on kindness and empathy. And I mean, it was clearly targeted towards what's going on right now.
Of course. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Kathy, thank you so much for your donation. She says, I want to ask Patrick and other MAGA imbeciles why they hate democracy so much, from Ukraine fighting for theirs and America losing ours. Why does a free democracy bother them so much? I think ignorance is certainly a part of it. Kathy, I think there's a lot of reasons, right?
He has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea what democracy, free press, what any of that stuff means, and we take it for granted here. So they have no idea.
I mean this sincerely. I think people like Patrick and so many of the MAGA Republicans out there that obviously want Russia to win this war, I want them all to be deported to Russia.
Yeah, please.
Or Gaza.
See how it is there.
Or Gaza, or a cave in Afghanistan. I want them all out. Let's go to Sahara calling out of Illinois, I believe. What's up, Sahara?
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good.
Hi, Ileana.
I love your name. It's a great name.
Thank you. I watch your show every day, and I just love how you eat up these MAGA meatheads. I mean, they have the IQ of a cardboard box.
They do.
Calling in.
That's offensive to cardboard boxes, I think. But yes, I agree.
But my thing is that I just can't understand for the life of me how this could have happened. How a 34 times felon, confused of rape, impeached twice, caused insurrection could be put back at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'll never understand.
Well, I think I have a few thoughts on that. There's a lot of stupid people in this country.
Yep.
There's a lot of ill-informed people in this country. There are a lot of brainwashed people in this country. There are a lot of bigots in this country. And when you add that all together, because I think stupidity and bigotry come hand in hand, you get a MAGA supporter who buys Trump Bibles, who buys Trump condoms, who buys Trump trading cards, who thinks Donald Trump is the Lord and Savior. This is what you get. And we have learned as a country, we have a lot of people like that live here, way too many of them. And quite frankly, it's very disappointing.
I think it's really easy for people to like the bully, for people to look at someone who says, I'm here for you and I'm going to steamroll over that. And they cheer that because we secretly do like the bullies. We like the tough guys, right? And so I think that it was just ripe for the picking. And I want to remind everybody that the election was closer than what him and MAGA World tries to say it was. It was under 2% in the popular vote, and a couple thousand votes here and there in a couple of states, and it swings the other way.
Yeah.
So we are essentially still a 50-50 country, but I mean, there was a lot of reasons on both sides, and I do think the Biden administration, we can call it out for what it is, made a series of mistakes.
So Riot Town in the super chat made a donation that made me laugh while you were talking, Liana. He said, does Caroline Leavitt call her husband babe or grandpa? I think that was it's a very funny statement. To give you a serious answer, maybe she calls him Vladdy. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Putin, my Putin bear. I don't know. Good question, though. Very funny. I don't know what the answer is to that, but Caroline Leavitt is despicable. But, she wears that cross on her neck, so she must be a really good, healthy, and wholesome Christian. Let's go to Jackie.
I think our current first lady is pretty despicable, too.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've got it on both sides.
Yeah, well, she's not. She's the contractual first lady. Going to Kansas City now. Let's go to Jackie. Jackie is next up on PTL. What's up, Jackie?
Hey, good afternoon. Just got kind of a two-parter here. I'm very curious. I've asked it in a couple places on social media, and I can't seem to get a direct answer. So as far as the House floor, can the Democrats not show up so the other side doesn't meet decorum? And if so, what would that look like? Because we see them all going to the podiums. Okay, cool, fine. We've heard it all. Get away from the podiums. Why can't they just not show up?
More chaos. You really can't govern like that, because when it's our time to be in charge in the chamber, you don't want that going on, because then nothing ever will get done ever. What I think, and I do think you kind of have a point when talking about Congress and the Senate, or the Congress as a whole, is that they're not doing their jobs, right? They haven't really been doing their jobs for a long time.
Yeah.
They are not, there would be no reason for Musk if they would have done their job over the course of the last several years and have gone through it to help cut waste and do those things and keep everything functioning. So I think that we are at the point we are because of the last say 15 years, 20 years or so, it's just kind of come to a head. And that includes illegal immigration and not dealing with it.
Sure.
And not, having a proper pathway for people to be legally here, not fixing the system, kicking it down the road. And this is kind of what we get, right? We get the Musk and the Muskettes all, in everyone's information. And I don't think people realize how dangerous all this is. And they're not going to until it hits them in the face.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. A couple thanks that I would like to put out there. Julie went on pushingthelimits.live and she made a donation. We appreciate you, Julie, for your contribution. Very generous, by the way, $50 donation from Julie. We appreciate you. Yvonne made a $20 donation. Thank you. They went on pushingthelimits.live.
Okay, so I want to say something about how critical it is to have people like Brian operating on the air, and there has never been a more critical time to have the free press than now. And while all of these, Trump is kind of working against the regular media, downplaying them and all that stuff. There has never been a more critical time to have actual facts reaching people. So whoever can support Brian in his efforts, I do when I can, any amount. But I will tell you, like, this is what's going to help save our democracy as we are going through this, and hopefully the courts will help stave off some of this madness. But I want to remind people, because I had a family member that made a comment that nothing's going to happen in 4 years. We'll weather this. It'll be fine. And of course, he voted for Trump. And my comment back was, Hitler dismantled democracy in 38 days. Trump is trying to follow that playbook. So I will tell you, this is never a more critical time to support the free press.
No doubt. 702-221-7.
Please do that.
Thank you. Thank you to Lori and Shelley, who in the super chat. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to Baltimore. Let's go to Tyrone, calling all the way from Baltimore. Tyrone, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon. Nice to talk to you. I haven't talked to you, called in a while. Hey, look, I was on a call last night with two of my two senators, town hall. My two senators, also Brooks and Van Hollen. I'm very concerned that they are continuing to fight yesterday's war with these Republicans. These are not your Reagan, Bush Republicans where it's a policy difference. There is a reality difference with these people you're dealing with. And I heard what a previous caller said about, and it's not called decorum, but it's called a quorum. And I would disagree with your guest host. You need to take all of your tools out of the drawer. So yes, you should, on certain bills or issues, not allow a quorum to take place, whether it's in the House or the Senate. Force them to send the Sergeant of Arms to bring people back in for a vote, because the difference between the Democrats and these MAGA Republicans is they show their base they are fighting, even though they're not. So you got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who filed impeachment articles against the Secretary of the Cabinet, which has like never been done in like 100 years. Where is our person on our side doing the exact same thing? There should be impeachment articles being filed immediately against Robert F. Kennedy.
To what end? What is that going to do? The people are going to look at that like, yeah, we have our base. The problem is we can't expand our base. So we lost for the first time. Like, we lost the people who were kind of the soft supporters on the Republican side. So no, I don't think holding things up anymore is going to do stuff. People want
here's
action.
What I think. So Tyrone, hear me out on this. I get what you're saying, but I think both of you can be correct at the same time. Here's what I think our politicians need to do. Exactly what Jasmine Crockett is doing, right? People like Jasmine Crockett who are fighting fire with fire, and they don't put up with the nonsense. You know, Eric Swalwell, who, by the way, is going to be doing this show in a few weeks. People like Jared Moskowitz, who really just clown these MAGA morons. There's only so much they can do from the perspective of writing law and bills. But we also have to expose these people for how ridiculous and insane they are. And there are some Democrats that are willing to do that, and there are some that are stay silent. For those that are staying silent, we need to vote them out and get younger people in office that are willing to be aggressive, like the Jasmine Crockett.
Hold on, and I'm going to say something. There is something to be said for sitting back and letting the other side implode. Let the other side implode as the farmers, and I'm hearing it from quite a bit of these groups who overwhelmingly supported Trump and voted him in. They are getting angry. They're getting frustrated. Good. Let them wallow in this, and in a year and a half, then the Democrats then come in and take back. So there is something said. Just let them hang themselves.
Tyrone, go ahead. Give you the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Thank you. But let me say this: it's not about you're not getting anything done. I understand what you're saying. It's also about grabbing the headlines, because that's what the Republicans did for 4 years. They kept everything in the headlines. So yes, you may think you're not building your base, but there are marginal people out there. If your messaging is right, you can highlight the issues with Robert Kennedy. You can highlight the issues with Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
You can highlight those issues and keep those in the forefront. That's how they built up the border issue, by keep focusing on Mayorkas. They kept Mayorkas in the focus, and they made Biden have to keep answering for Mayorkas. This is how you get people back.
So I agree, but so listen, I agree, Tyrone, with everything you just said. However,
it's not how
the
it works.
White House has banned the Associated Press from being in the White House press briefing. Why? I'll tell you why. We've been calling it the Panama Canal for over 400 years, but Donald Trump and his dictatorship want us to call it the American Canal.
It's not it's not ours to call.
So the point being is that this is a dictatorship, and there are a lot of members of the media that are scared, quite frankly.
Yeah.
If you call it the Panama Canal, they're going to take your press credentials away. Now, I think that's against the law, and the Associated Press, I believe, is going to file a lawsuit, and they will win. But Tyrone, I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. We just have to understand the times that we are living in now. So I want to thank Howard on our super chat. How generous. Howard donating $49.99 in the super chat. Howard, we greatly appreciate your generosity. We really do. Thank you so much for your donation. 702-221-7283. I love it how we get calls all over the country every day, and today is certainly no exception. Paul is calling from California. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
Hey, two things. I want to make a comment, then I'm going to ask a question. If the Republicans exhumed the body of Robert E. Lee and put his corpse on the floor of the Senate, he would get 52 votes. Okay, let's just be real.
You're right. I agree.
That's where we are as a country.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask a question. Now, before you just say no, just hear me out.
Okay.
The Republicans and Democrats, neither one of them give a crap about you and I and your guest and everyone that's listening to this. In 1965, May 1965 in France, they did something called a wildcat protest, where they went against the unions, and the entire country went on strike for 6 or 7 weeks until the government decided that they've had enough financial hardship. Now, I don't think that people like Jasmine Crockett, who is incredible, no matter what she says, it's not going to move the needle.
No.
The only thing that's going to stop this government is if we stop supplying it with money. If teachers don't go to school, the kids have to stay home. If the kids have to stay home, the people don't go to work. They don't go to work, they don't get federal dollars. The truck drivers stay home. The economy shuts down. The only thing that's going to save us, Brian, from ourselves is ourselves. The government is not going to save us. And I know that it sounds extreme, and I understand that I can't afford to do that. But I think there's a point where we have to say, can we not afford to do that? Because I think we're to that point.
Okay, we might be to that point.
I don't disagree with you at all, actually.
Yeah, but I think what we need to do is keep harping on what is going on in this country today. Maybe reach some of those people who voted for Donald Trump that are maybe not completely pro-Donald Trump. Use their stories. For example, some Latinas or others in this country who have had family members that have been deported, nonviolent criminals, and they voted for Donald Trump. We need to interview those types of people. That people need to be out there and telling their stories. People there that are going to be losing their jobs, losing their 401ks, that are spending more on the price of eggs and gas. We need to expose that, talk to those people as voters
Brian,
ourselves.
Hold on, but Brian, let me push back a little bit. How does that stop what's happening inside the Senate right now in the government?
No, I want to. So wait, let me help play out your scenario, because I actually don't disagree with you at all. My husband's a teacher. They are losing teacher as his. It's just kind of chaos right now, right? But what I do think, if we let this play out a little bit, is I have friends and family who voted for Trump as well, right? Against their own interest, they're just kind of ignorant about it. But I will tell you, at the moment where there's not enough people in the towers traffic air controllers, and they can't get on their planes to go to their vacations, and it starts impacting them. All of a sudden, they're going to take notice when there's not enough people to process people's tax returns. I pay in, so I'm not in any hurry for that. But when they can't get their returns, that's all of a sudden going to be a problem, because the problem is when you take government and you start stripping it away and you start firing people willy-nilly, and when we have, and because we will, our enemies are going to see this as a weakness when the FBI is down to bare bones and the CIA is down to bare bones, and I actually think the FBI and the CIA agents who are careers should just walk off. I actually kind of agree with you. I think when you put people down and you make them feel inconsequential, that they should walk off. When all this stuff starts to happen, people are going to look at Musk and ultimately at Trump and said, you did this.
I hear what both of you are saying, but
I think it's going to happen because of what they're doing.
But at the same time, we have to live in the reality of the fact that he is going to be here for the next 4 years, and we need to make sure that there's a better midterms. And
that's where
Brian, hold on. Let me push back on you, because I know I love you. We may not have a democracy in 4 years or 2 years, Brian. We cannot wait for that to happen.
Okay.
We are literally losing the foundation of our democracy right
now. So here's where I draw the line.
Okay.
And here's where we disagree. There is going to be an election in 2028. That is, in my opinion, that is not. Now, listen, Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. I've been saying that every day.
Yes.
And I do believe that. But I am not ready to sit here and say that he is going to run for a third term. Now, I'll tell you what could happen. Are you ready for this? This is not a conspiracy theory. J.D. Vance runs or somebody else runs and Donald Trump runs as vice president. I can certainly see that happening.
No.
It could happen legally. And it very well may happen. But there will be an election, and we need to make sure that.
But Brian, why are you against a wildcat strike where the entire country just shuts down, where the people control the narrative, not the government? Why are you against that? Or what concerns do you have?
Well, I didn't say I was against it. I just don't think it's a reality. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, but I do think, and that's actually, the truckers, when they shut down the country pretty much shut down. Like nothing came in and out. No one got stuff. So no, you do absolutely have a point. That is the power of the unions and the power of people. But what I do think is going to happen as they start kicking people out of these government jobs that are vital to everybody else, right? And it's vital to process Social Security checks, veterans, administration and the care on that. I absolutely do agree with you that, but I think it's going to happen kind of naturally where things are going to cease to function.
702, by the way, Paul, thank you for the phone call, 702-221-7283. Thanks to Joe from Reno, who went on my website, pushingthelimits.live, made a donation. Courtney just bought a couple PTL shirts on the website.
We love that. Please wear them out.
Thank you, Courtney, and thank you, Eleanor. That was my grandmother's name. I miss her very much. Eleanor, thank you for
name.
Thank you for your donation, and Shelly, of course, in the super chat. We appreciate your support as well. All right, let's go to Reno, shall we? The second Vegas. I don't know. Is that offensive to people in Reno? I don't know. Laura Lee is next up, calling from Reno. Hi, Laura Lee.
Close, Lorelei.
I apologize. Go right ahead. Lie. So your name there is very similar to what Donald Trump does every day. I'm sorry. I digress. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to know if you heard the newest letter that order that Trump just signed, executive order, saying he's getting rid of the Congress and the Senate and Doge will now be in control.
No, I did not hear about that. When did that happen?
Just a little bit ago.
I'll have to do some, my dear, I'll have to do some research on that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Be careful of the sources you look at.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe
you can't change the Constitution with an executive order.
Maybe that was from The Onion. I don't know, but hey, you never know with Donald Trump. We'll look into it. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Dope Show says, you are amazing. Thank you for the $20 donation on the super chat. We appreciate you, Dope Show. You know Marilyn Manson, right?
Yeah, of course.
Dope Show. That's one of my favorite Marilyn Manson songs. We are in the Dope Show. Just listen to Mark Levin.
Banana Republic.
Speaking of the Dope Show, or Luna yesterday. Oh my God, let's not even go back there. All right, let's get back to the calls. Let's go to Doc. Doc is calling from Indiana. What's up, Doc?
That was awesome. It's actually Scott, but I think I like Doc better.
I'm just reading off our teleprompter. I apologize.
I think that's your new nickname. I like it a lot.
Scott, Doc, it's all the same. Go right ahead, Scott. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's run with it. Okay.
What's on your mind, sir?
Well, I just want to say hey to the both of you. It's good to talk with you both. Hey, Ilana.
Hi.
I'm excited to call you guys because I've called many times, and your regular callers are so freaking smart.
They are. They are. I say that every day. Every day I say how smart and how informed so many of the callers are. Sorry, Patrick, I'm going to leave you out of this equation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. We'll pass. I'll skip that. Paul. I feel a lot and respect Paul's passion. He's got a clear sense of urgency, but I think one step at a time. But I respect his urgency. He thinks it through. I mean, I could have a beer with Paul pretty easily and have some great conversations.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Was it Tyrone before?
Yes.
He's always a fun call. He's just bright.
Well, we have here's my opinion, and you could tell me your thoughts on this. And by the way, Kathy, thank you for your donation. We appreciate you. We'll read that here in a bit. So here's my opinion, and you could tell me as a listener, I'm sorry, you're in Indiana, right, Scott?
Yes.
So here's what I think, and I've never really talked to my listeners about this. There are some great people that are left-leaning podcasters and radio hosts. David Pakman is a perfect example. He's doing my show on Monday. Brian Tyler Cohen is another one. There are a lot of talented people that do shows, but I don't feel like there is a show like this one that really gives people an opportunity and a platform to call in every day and vent and ask questions. I don't feel like there's another show that leans to the left in the country that does that. Am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe there's great commentary, which I think is awesome. But to give people the opportunity, wherever they live, wherever they are, to call into a show and vent a little bit. You think that's accurate?
That's 100% accurate because you give a lot of people I would hang up on if it were my show a huge amount of leeway.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Sometimes I'm like, Brian, just hang up on the guy,
Sometimes it's too entertaining for me to just destroy them. It's too hard. I have to do it.
Well, they step right in. They keep stepping on the rake repeatedly.
Yeah, they do.
I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
But I did have another point to make, and I'll try to make it quick because I think most of the topic this week has been, what are we getting? What is America getting in return, or what did we give up to Russia?
Yeah.
We've been on that topic mainly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Besides what you guys have already covered, forget that he's staffing the most critical positions in the country with the biggest buffoons he can find.
Well, it's even worse than that, my friend. It's even worse than that. And by the way, thank you for your call and your kind words. I really do appreciate you. It's more than just incompetent people. It's also dangerous people.
Yeah.
Kash Patel has a hit list. He's very dangerous. The Kremlin is kicking back and
Tulsi Gabbard.
The Kremlin is kicking back and drinking a cold one because Tulsi Gabbard was put in place. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a nutbag. Okay,
he is. But hold on, I want to say that some of his things that he cares about is not wrong, like banning the ultra processed foods, the things that are banned in Europe that we don't eat in Europe that are making people sick here, trying to get people more well. I don't think those are I think those are positives. So I'm not as concerned about him as I am the others, the Patels, the Gabbards. So I don't think that. And then we have that firewall of the courts. If the courts fall I don't know what else to tell us, but that's our firewall, that and the free press.
Kathy, thank you for your donation on the super chat. She says in April there are 2 special elections in Florida. One was the Gates seat and one in New York for Stefanik's seat. If Dems get out the vote, we can flip these seats before the midterms. This would stop Trump, Musk. I do agree with you, Kathy, and we hope that does happen.
Yep.
I have some breaking news for you, Yee. I guess there are some Kanye fans out there.
I hope not.
Anti-Semitic piece of human garbage. It appears as though he is divorcing. What is her name? Bianca? Is that her name? I guess they're going through a divorce. Kanye's the worst, but we have, I don't want to say his name on the air, somebody with 20 times the following that I have, who is a huge Kanye West defender. If I said his name on the air, you all would know it. He got back to me on social media, and he is allegedly going to do the show next week. He has agreed to do the show. He saw my following. He said, okay, I'll do it. So that should be interesting. Meanwhile, Kanye West is selling swastika T-shirts. This man, see, here's the thing. I'm going to make this analogy for all of you right now. Here's the thing. You look at somebody like Candace Owens, for example, or Charlie Kirk. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. What they do is sometimes they're selling a book. They're making money off of social media. They spread hatred and bigotry, and they hurt people so that they can make money. I don't even know if Kanye West is anti-Semitic. I mean, I would assume he probably is.
No, he is. You should hear the stuff he says.
But there's a reason why I say that. The only reason why Kanye went on X this week and said horrible things about the Jewish people is because he has an album coming out. The reason why his now ex was practically naked on the red carpet because he knew it would get a lot of clicks, and he has an album coming out. You see, I put all these people into one category, whether it be Candace Owens or a Charlie Kirk or a Kanye West and others. I put them on one category. They'll be bigoted in nature, and they'll say the worst things and racist things and transphobic things for one reason and one reason only, to benefit them because they get more clicks and they make money. Kanye West is very similar, in my opinion, to a Candace Owens and others, and that's why they're friends.
None of this is okay.
No, it's terrible. I'm not defending it at all.
None of this is all right. I have Jewish children. You're Jewish. None of this is okay.
No, they're terrible people.
And when my son, who you know, gets not as much bullied as anti-Semitic tropes thrown at him, telling him that he should embrace Hitler at 12, 13 years old from kids who know nothing of what that means, but they're going to grow up into adults who are going to take on some of that mantra. None of this is okay.
So just to end, because there's certain words we can't use on the air, the mustache man, I don't even go there and say his name, but I will say this. Anybody out there that is talking about free speech and Kanye has the right to do this, this, and this, it's very simple. Kanye West is inciting violence. Okay, he has a large following. Even if you don't have a following, it's unacceptable. But when you, especially worse, when you have a large platform and a large following that Kanye West has, there are some people that don't have common sense, some people that have violent tendencies, and this can incite violence, and we should all be calling it out. And the fact that Elon Musk has even allowed Yee, or whatever the hell his name is, back on X is despicable, and it says all you need to know. You see, if you attack, not even attack, but if you criticize somebody like an Elon Musk, he'll take your blue check away, what he did to Laura Loomer for a while. But yet, if you say horrible things, I'm not going to repeat them, horrible things about the Jewish people, Elon Musk thinks you deserve a second chance. Let's get back to the phone calls now. Going out to Texas, let's go to Chris. Chris is next up on PTL. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon, man. How are you?
Good.
Hi.
What's on your mind?
Thank you.
Real quick, and I apologize, dear lovely lady. I just forgot your name. Can you remind me real quick?
Yep, Ilana.
Ilana.
Go right ahead. Yep.
Ilana, I got to say, just like you, I think Paul is on fire. I did love it. I do love your stance of let's watch and wait, but here's my
hold on. I'm going to let you finish, my friend. I didn't say watch and wait. That's yeah, okay. Oh, okay. You're talking about Ilana. Okay.
I said wait, just kind of sit back and let it go. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's more like it's watch and wait what happens, right? See how it affects the people that are out there. And I get that position. I really do. But my hesitancy here is that the sources and where people get their information in the next 2 to 4 years, that's not going to change. And the rhetoric that Republicans use on the other side of the aisle, aka blaming Dems for everything, that fallout's not going to change over the next 2 and 4 years.
No.
So ever since Newt Gingrich was like, let's just not do anything productive at all, this is how we got here. So as much as I love your optimism on how it's going to affect people's pocketbook and then they're going to change, if anything, I think it would be temporary and then it'd be back to the same old, same old. So maybe that's the cynic in me. I'll let you talk me off the end.
I don't think it's cynic. You're being cynical. What I'm just from my perspective, my friend, I'm just trying to be a little bit pragmatic in saying that, listen, America's going to suffer. There are some MAGA supporters out there that are going to suffer, and they would probably still vote for Donald Trump. I'm not talking about those people. What I am talking about is every single day calling out the false promises that Donald Trump has made, how he has not fulfilled them, and compare the economy compared to when Joe Biden was president. That's what we need to do every day. I want to thank Rebecca for making a purchase on the website, pushingthelimits.live. And I really want to thank Jane and Lori for their donations on the website, pushingthelimits.live. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
And I just want to bring up, really quickly, that historically, pretty much every midterm goes against the sitting party who's in the White House. So, do I think that we're in really good position on the other side on my side, to take Congress back? Yeah, I mean, it's a few seats, right? So I think we're in good position just because historically that's what happens anyways. And I just don't see what is going on, what they're trying to do, benefiting people enough to where people are going to sit back and go, oh, my life is better. Inflation is going to pick up. The more they talk about tariffs, like I have the charity work that I do, they're very Republican. They're, they voted for, and they're freaking out over the China tariffs because that affects the products that we can bring in to help the 8,000 kids we have in the state, right? So I do not think the chaos and all that's going on is going to be beneficial, and I do think in a year and a half we will that's the way we can put some checks and balances back. Sure. But our side has to grow some balls. Can I say that?
I've been saying that.
We have to grow a pair and be able to actually govern and do what we're supposed to do.
Just don't conflate that to Elon Musk's operative Big Balls.
No, he's
who is now Hairy Balls, by the way. 702. Yeah. How immature, by the way. How stupid. These are the people that Elon Musk hires. All right, it's time.
Because they're 20 years old.
It's time for the MAGA 25. I heard Big Balls is. Let's go to the MAGA destroyer. It's always fun to have Darlene on. Darlene, the floor is yours.
Hi, Brian, and hello to your lovely guest.
Hi.
I love everything she's saying. Brian, first of all, let me say this real quick. I want to get this correct. Couch donated earlier for me, not against me, because I had made a statement that I'm broke, and then Couch, he donated to you in my name. So I wanted to get that straight to everybody.
Fair enough.
Okay, but now, enough of that. But now listen, I want to talk to MAGA Patrick.
Okay.
Patrick, I bet you got beat up a lot in your days because of your mouth and your stupidity. Matt, let me tell you something, Patrick. President Zelensky is more of a man and leader than Trump, Pussy Putin, and you could ever be. Do you understand? You 100%. Crossed the line with me when you cut down Zelensky. He is a great leader.
Well, Darlene, Darlene, I agree with you. They crossed the line with me because if any MAGA supporter wants to have a conversation with me about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, they're welcome to do so. But I always ask them, who do you want to win? If they don't immediately say Ukraine, then why is it even worth me having a conversation with them? I say that, by the way, to anybody. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, or whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump, whether you agree or disagree with these concessions. The bottom line is this: if you are not willing to say that you want Ukraine to win, then where does the conversation, should it even, I don't even think it should go anywhere. And by the way, if Tulsi Gabbard was being honest with a lie detector test, Tulsi Gabbard would not want Ukraine to win either. I mean, it's crazy. These people are crazy.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't understand the point about the confirmation hearings when they're just telling Congress
I know.
what they want to hear to get the votes, and then they're going to do what they've been saying that they were going to do publicly for years.
I agree.
Like,
Darlene,
it's so stupid.
Darlene, it's always good to hear from you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Darlene.
You're the best. All right, let's go to Florida, home of Ron DeSantis' very sexy boots. Let's go to Keith. Keith is calling in from Florida. What's up, Keith?
Hey, Ileana and Brian, how's your day going?
Good.
Fine, I think.
Good. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
I got a couple of things for you. You're not going to see it in the news media here. I had to go to the UK to find it, but MAGA now has blood on its hands because a 71-year-old woman died in Thailand because they cut off funding for USAID.
That's horrible.
And she couldn't get the oxygen she needs.
That is just so
You're
awful.
going to hear more and more stories about that, too.
You know what it reminds me
And
of?
I got that from the Telegraph in the UK.
You know what it reminds me of?
There's one other item.
Yeah, let me just, Keith, hang on one second. Let me just respond to what you first said. Let me just say this. And that's horrible, by the way. That reminds me of, do you remember when all these people in this country, there were so many of them that listened to the right-wing rhetoric and they didn't get vaccinated? And then we had hospitals all across the country that were overrun in our ER rooms, and people couldn't even get surgeries, and people died because they couldn't get the health care that they needed because there were so many people in the ICU. That's what when you say blood on your hands, I agree with you, and that's horrible. I'm sorry, Keith. Go ahead, and the other thing you were going to mention. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely horrible, and the people who put Trump in office are responsible for that death. That's why I said that. Or that's the way I feel. But the other item was President Musk just secured a $400 million sale to the United States of his stupid Cybertruck.
It's in the budget,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been passed
Yeah.
yet. But armored. Sorry, they're armored except for they don't actually stop bullets.
Did you guys, speaking of Elon Musk,
and they run into walls sometimes.
Yeah, speaking of Elon, did you see Lil X, his kid, who I'm sure is going to be growing up to be another trust fund baby douche, I'm sure. But did you see what he was saying in the Oval Office? You're not the president.
He told Trump to shut up.
Yeah, he told Trump to shut up. You're not the president. Those are definitely things that Elon Musk says behind closed doors. Thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate it's out there in Florida.
Yep.
I expect some oranges through the mail. Thank you. And I want those. I want a signed white boots of Ron DeSantis, and I will sell them to MAGA Patrick for a lot of money. Thank you for the call. Let's see here. I love my Las Vegas locals. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next. What's up, Mark? Hi, Mark. Are you there?
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Yes, I am. Can you? Hi.
Yes,
hey. Hey, Brian. I've called in several times. That I hope that I sound sensible most of the time, anyway. I just wanted a couple of comments. There was a Psychology Now paper that came out not that long ago suggesting that lead poisoning has led to mental illness for 154 million Americans. So there could be an explanation for why these Patricks of the world exist, and it may have a lot to do with their brains being poisoned for decades and decades.
Yeah.
And I'm being slightly facetious, but there is a lot of truth in this, in the sense that they cannot reason, they do not critically think, they simply follow whatever their anger, which can be induced by lead poisoning, tells them to do.
Wait, it sounds like you're describing my ex-radio, not you, Ileana, an ex-radio host that I had 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe there is something to that. I mean, there's so many other things going on. The misinformation is certainly being put out there, but the problem is it's being received and it's being retransmitted all the time.
Yeah.
And it's by these same kinds of people like Patrick that's happening.
I do not disagree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, we're in agreement on that, certainly. There are some really difficult issues that the country has been facing for quite some time. My degree is in environmental studies, and the overriding issue is what we do or don't do about climate change. which is a worldwide problem.
Well, Mark,
And,
Mark,
so-
you are way too educated for any MAGA deplorable to listen to you for more than 5 seconds before their head explodes. You're way too intelligent. Now, you're perfect for this show. Don't get me wrong. But, for people like the MAGA callers that call into this show and people who voted for Donald Trump, very ill-informed and uneducated people, somehow they look at people like you as a threat because you know what you're talking about and you're educated. Mark, it's good to hear from you. Please call back when I have a little bit more time. Let's go to Dave, who's calling out of Ohio. Yes, that's right. The Cleveland Cavaliers could get my Celtics. I'm worried about them. What's up, Dave?
Well, in that case, I hope we do. But that's beside the point. I had a concept. I just want to throw this past both you guys and see what you think. Okay.
Okay.
I was been listening to the show, and about the whole thing about not going to work or anything. What if the Democrats came back with with the whole budget? They're talking about these tax breaks. They're talking about the big things. Give tax breaks. Okay. Here's my thought process. What if we would say, okay, everybody has a straight pay tax? Like, let's say you're a company, whatever, it's 10%, whatever we come up with. And basically, if you want your tax break, you're going to have to do it through state. Now, here's where I think it would be interesting, okay? Basically, what it does is it bounces back to the state, and Trump is not, one, going to look like a hero because he's the president, has nothing to do with the state. And basically what I'm trying to do is almost play like a little bit of money welfare like they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, Ilana. What do you make of that?
I think the budget process is a little more complicated than that, so I'm not sure that would. But I get where you're going with that.
I get where he's going with it.
I just think this is really complex, and there's certain things that have to be funded.
Yeah.
And should be funded.
No doubt. Yep.
So I'm not sure.
Well, listen,
with that is...
you have to let's just pragmatically dissect this. We only have a few minutes left here. The reason why Elon Musk is doing what he's doing is not because he cares about this country, and it's not because he cares about budget cuts, and it's not
power.
No, it's about power, but it's also about retribution. He is openly going after companies, businesses, the government, people that he feel like has done him wrong. That is what this entire presidency is about.
Yeah, Trump, absolutely.
It's retribution.
That's what it is,
This is retribution. They are even going after people that investigated January 6th. This entire administration, and Elon Musk is in it, President Musk, whatever you want to call him, this is about retribution. I apologize to all the people that are waiting on hold. We have full phone lines on this show every single day. We had 4 phone lines. We went to 6 phone lines, and apparently we need more. So, and that's a testament to all of you, and we will try to take as many phone calls as we can every single day. And by the way, tomorrow won't be the difference. There won't be a difference of tomorrow. We'll take plenty of calls tomorrow. So one of my favorite left-wing podcasters is coming on tomorrow, and one of my favorite left-wing podcasters is coming on Monday. Now, I like getting righties on this show, and I had a right-wing podcaster, David Pollack, join us, and we're going to continue to get right-wingers to do this show time and time again. As I said, we're going to have a Kanye West defender. He happens to be black, and he happens to be a huge Trump supporter. He has agreed to come on the show next week. But we have Ryan Shedd joining us tomorrow. Huge platform. The same people that go after Ryan, by the way, are the same people that go after me. And David Pakman did a segment about me a few weeks ago. David's huge on social media. Very, very popular show he does. And I guess somebody had called into this show attacking him, and I defended Pakman, and he did a segment about me. So David has agreed to come on the show Monday. It's the beauty of social media that I will say I've had the opportunity to make friends with people that I've been watching on TV a lot. Don Lemon is now a friend of mine, and I've JoJo from Jers, people like that, and I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful to people like Ilana, of course, who have been such huge supporters of this show. And Ilana, you're a great friend, and always appreciate it. It's good to have you back here in studio. Let's do it again very soon. And of course, all of you in the super chat that have been very generous. People like Nancy, who just made a $26 donation off of my website, pushingthelimits.live. Thank you. And of course, some of my great sponsors, including Jackson's Bar and Grill. They've been fantastic. They have the Pass the Puck contest where you can win up to $500 in free slot play during a Vegas Golden Knights game. They're located at Flamingo and Jones. Great supporters of the show and so many others. And I just want to thank all of you. It's a fast-growing show for a reason, and I'm very humbled by it because you guys are such a huge part of what I do here. And I will always take calls every day. Yes, Some shows I won't have as much time as others, but, I'll always open up my show to all of you, regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter or not. I'm willing to debate anybody on this show. Sadly, some of those people are not willing to debate me, but hey, we're going to continue to throw out those requests and we will see what happens. Ilana, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And check out the website if you haven't already. We've had a lot of people on there. We appreciate you. Pushingthelimits.live. We will be back at it tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thank you to Grant Stern from Occupy Democrats for joining us as well. He's the reason why Steve Bannon was recently just prosecuted. So thank you to Grant Stern for joining us. And Ryan Shedd's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. You see my email at the bottom there. There are plenty of ways of getting involved in the show and contacting me personally. I try to get to as many as I can. Thank you all for the support. I love all of you guys. You guys are great. I have the most intelligent and informed audience of any radio show in the country, hands down, period. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Don Bongino has a lot of very intelligent listeners as well. Don't get me wrong. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U.